The weight of my dad's funeral ring felt heavy on my right hand as I watched the last guests leave our family mansion. My name is Patricia, and at 29, I never thought I'd be standing here, surrounded by empty champagne glasses and fake sympathy. Darling, you should fix your makeup. Your mascara is smudging. Emma's voice broke into my thoughts. It sounded soft but sharp. My stepmother stood there in her perfectly fitted black dress, not a single hair out of place, even after a long day of pretending to be sad. I'm fine, I said, turning away from her fake concern. The mansion felt strange now, colder and lonelier, without Dad's loud, warm laughter filling the halls. As you wish. She touched my shoulder, her diamond rings shining under the lights. We need to go over the estate tomorrow. There are financial matters that need urgent attention. Before I could say anything, Scott, our butler for the past 21 years, appeared beside me. Miss Patricia, may I speak with you in private? Emma's fingers pressed lightly into my shoulder before letting go. Of course. I'll be in the study if anyone needs me, she said, her heels clicking on the marble floor as she walked away. Scott led me into the kitchen. His presence felt both comforting and strange at the same time. He looked around before pulling something out of his jacket. Your father asked me to give you this after the funeral, he said, handing me a sealed envelope that looked a bit old. He was very clear about the timing. My hands shook as I took it. When did he give this to you? 2 months ago, right before he was diagnosed, Scott replied. His eyes held a look I couldn't quite understand. He made me promise to give it to you directly. I opened the envelope with shaky hands and unfolded the letter. My dad's handwriting covered the page. My dearest Patricia, if you're reading this, it means I didn't get to tell you the truth face to face, and I'm sorry. The mansion, our home, belongs to you. It always has. Your mother set up a trust before she passed away. Emma doesn't know. The official will reading tomorrow will explain everything, but I wanted you to hear it from me first. Be careful, sweetheart. Watch the shadows. Love, Dad. I looked up, stunned. Scott, did you know about this? I looked up at him, but his face stayed calm and unreadable. I know many things, Miss Patricia, he said quietly, including that Mrs. Frank has been calling real estate agents this past week. A bitter laugh slipped out of me. She's trying to sell my house? Your stepmother has always been ambitious, he said in a lower voice. But there's more you should know about the safe in your father's study. Patricia, Nicole's voice echoed from a hallway. Where are you hiding? Scott quickly stepped back as my best friend burst into the kitchen. Her dark curls were a mess, and her eyes were full of worry. I've been looking all over for you. Are you okay? I'm fine, I said out of habit, then paused. Actually, no. I'm not okay. I looked at Scott. He gave me a small nod before slipping out the back door. Nicole grabbed my hand. Talk to me. What's going on? Dad left me a letter, I said, holding her hand tighter. The mansion is mine, Fran. All of it. And Emma's been trying to sell it without telling me. That snake, Nicole said, eyes wide. No wonder she's been clinging to that creepy lawyer all day. What are you going to do? Before I could answer, we heard voices from the study. Emma and a man I recognized right away. Jonathan Crombie, the family lawyer who once asked me out and never got over it. The will reading is tomorrow, I whispered, sliding Dad's letter into the pocket of my dress. Let them make their plans. Tomorrow, they'll find out the house they're trying to sell isn't even theirs. Nicole squeezed my arm. Want me to stay the night? I shook my head and stood tall. No. I need to do this by myself. But first, I looked toward the study. I think it's time to see what's in Dad's safe. Be careful, Patricia, Nicole warned. Oh, I will be. I smoothed out my black dress, and Dad's ring sparkled in the light. I'm not the one who should be afraid of losing everything. As I walked toward the study, my heels echoed on the marble floor, the same one my mom had picked out 31 years ago.
Something inside me had changed.
The sadness was still there, sharp and painful. But now it had company, strength, anger, and a deep need to protect what was mine. Let Emma play her little tricks. Tomorrow, she'd finally learn whose house she was standing in. Your dad always said this place had more secrets than a church confessional, Nicole whispered as we slipped into the study after midnight. The leather books and thick curtains cast strange shadows in the light from our phones. Help me move this painting, I said, reaching for the huge picture that had always hung behind Dad's desk. My hands shook a little as we lifted it. Behind it was the wall safe. I'd only seen it a few times in my life. Do you know the code? Nicole asked. I smiled as I remembered what Dad had told me years ago. My birthday, Mom's birthday, and the day they first met. I turned the dial on the safe, using those dates. With a soft click, it opened. Inside, there were folders and documents stacked neatly, but one thing caught my attention. A USB drive labeled insurance and a thick envelope with my name on it. Look at this, I said, pulling out a bundle of photos. They showed Emma at different cafes and restaurants, meeting with various men. The dates on the back went back 6 years, back when Dad was still alive. Nicole leaned over my shoulder. Is that Jonathan? Your father's lawyer? And that's Matthew from the investment firm. My stomach turned. Dad knew. He knew she was lying to him. Just then, a floorboard creaked in the hallway. We both froze. Quick, the safe, Nicole whispered. We rushed to put everything back except the USB and the envelope with my name on it. We closed the safe and managed to hang the painting back just in time. The study door opened. Scott, I sighed in relief when I saw our butler. Miss Patricia, Mrs. Frank is awake. She's asking for you, he said, glancing at the painting and then back at me. She's in the kitchen. At this hour? Nicole frowned. I'll handle it, I said, slipping the USB and envelope into my pocket. Fran, can you? I'll wait here. Text me if you need help, she said with a nod. The kitchen lights felt too bright after the dark study. Emma sat at the counter in a fancy silk robe, sipping what looked like scotch. Couldn't sleep, she asked. Her voice was sweet, but her eyes were sharp. I just came to get some water, I said, walking to the sink with my back to her. We need to talk about tomorrow, darling, she said as she swirled her drink. Your father left behind a lot of debt. Just keeping the mansion running will be hard. Really? I turned and leaned against the counter. That's strange. Dad's last financial report showed everything was fully paid and in good shape. Her eyebrows lifted just a bit. You've been going through his papers? Let's stop pretending, Emma, I said, pulling out my phone and showing her the photos I had just found. Care to explain these? Her face turned pale as she scrolled through them. Where did you get these? Dad wasn't as blind as you thought. He knew about your meetings with Jonathan, with Matthew, and the rest. He saw what you were doing. My voice stayed calm, even though my heart was racing. What were you planning? To sell the mansion right after the will was read. You don't understand anything, she snapped, standing up. Her robe swished as she moved. Your father was sick long before the doctors found it. He was making terrible choices. You mean choices that didn't benefit you? I said quietly. I stepped closer. Did you really think you'd get away with it? She let out a cold, bitter laugh. Get away with what? Being a caring wife. Trying to protect the family's future? You're just a child pretending to be an adult. A child who owns this house, I said. She looked like I'd slapped her. That's right. Mom left it to me through a trust. Dad told me everything. You're lying, she said, but I noticed her hand shaking as she put her glass down. The will reading tomorrow will confirm it, I said. Every document, every property deed, it's all in my name. I started walking toward the door. Sleep well, Emma. You might want to start packing in the morning. You ungrateful little. She stopped herself and forced a smile. We can work something out. We're family after all. Family doesn't try to sell each other's homes behind their backs, I said, pausing at the door. And family doesn't betray the people they say they love. Back in the study, Nicole was pacing. Well, she asked. She knows, I said, pulling out the USB drive. But not everything. Not yet. I plugged the drive into Dad's computer. Folders popped up, full of financial records, emails, and even surveillance photos. Your dad was careful, Nicole whispered. He was trying to protect you. I clicked through the files. Each one showed more of Emma's lies and plans. And tomorrow, I said, I'm going to use all of this to take back what's mine. What do you need me to do? She asked. I smiled, imagining the look on Emma's face when she realized she had lost everything. Call Kenneth. We'll need all the family support we can get. The next morning, sunlight filled the mansion as Kenneth walked into the breakfast room. His calm, steady presence made me feel stronger. He had always been the voice of reason in our family, and right now I needed that. Little Sin, he said, pulling me into a hug. I came as soon as Nicole called. Show me what you've got. I laid everything out on the antique dining table, bank statements, emails, and photos. As Kenneth studied each file, his face grew serious. That lying. He stopped mid-sentence. We heard the sound of heels on the marble floor. Emma walked into the room, her face full of fake concern. Kenneth, what a lovely surprise, she said, moving in for a hug. But he stepped back and stood next to me. Her smile faded for just a second. Emma, he said coldly, I hear you've been busy making plans for the estate. Someone has to handle the serious matters, she replied, sitting down across from us. Patricia, about last night, I spoke with Jonathan. He agrees we need to go over the debts right away. What debts? Kenneth asked sharply. The mortgage, renovation loans. Emma waved her hand like it was nothing. Your uncle made some poor financial choices in his last months. I pulled out my dad's last bank statement. You mean these loans? The ones you took out in his name while he was heavily medicated? Emma's face turned pale. I don't know what you're trying to say, she whispered. Stop lying, I said, dropping copies of loan documents on the table. These signatures don't even match Dad's handwriting. Did you really think he wouldn't notice? That he wouldn't protect himself and me? I did all of it for this family, Emma said, her voice shaking. Your father was losing control, making bad choices. Someone had to step in. By faking his signature? I asked. By secretly meeting his lawyer to sell the house behind my back. I leaned closer. Yes, my house. My mom's trust made sure it would always be mine. Just then, the door opened again. Jonathan walked in, wearing an expensive suit. He froze when he saw Kenneth. Am I interrupting something? He asked, looking unsure. Perfect timing, Kenneth said, standing up. Want to explain why you've been helping Emma sell property that doesn't belong to her? I don't know what you mean, Jonathan stammered. Mrs. Frank just asked for some basic estate planning advice. Save it, I said, pulling out my phone. I played a recording of one of their cafe meetings. Their voices filled the room, talking about property prices and possible buyers. You recorded us? Emma's voice was shaking with anger. Dad did, I said, stopping the recording. He knew everything, Emma, every meeting, every fake document, every lie. This is nonsense, Jonathan said, adjusting his tie. Those recordings won't hold up in court. But the accounting report will, Kenneth said, placing another folder on the table. And so will the doctor's statements about your dad's mental condition when those loans were made. Want to guess how this looks for both of you? Emma suddenly stood up, her chair screeching. You ungrateful little. After everything I've done for you. Done for me. I laughed. You mean stealing my inheritance? Trying to sell my home? Using my dad's illness to take money for yourself? You don't understand what it takes to keep all this running, she shouted, waving her hand around the room. Your mother's trust isn't enough to even keep the lights on. Someone had to think about the future. You mean your future, I said, slowly standing. Well, here's something to think about. You have 26 hours to pack your things and leave. After that, I'm calling the police. You can't do this to me, she said, her voice shaky, almost begging. Actually, she can, Kenneth said firmly, placing a hand on my shoulder. The will reading this afternoon will confirm everything. But make no mistake, Emma, you've already lost. The only thing left is how much self-respect you'll have when you walk out of here. Jonathan cleared his throat. Maybe we should talk about this privately? There's nothing left to talk about, I said. I looked straight at him. You might want to contact the Bar Association before I do. I hear they don't like lawyers who help fake documents. Jonathan turned pale and slowly backed toward the door. Emma watched him leave, her carefully built world falling apart. 26 hours, I repeated. And Emma, don't try to take anything that doesn't belong to you. Scott has a full list of everything in this house. She opened her mouth to speak, but Kenneth cut in. If I were you, I'd stop talking. You don't want us digging deeper into those offshore accounts, do you? She flinched at the mention of the accounts, something I hadn't even known about. Without another word, she turned and rushed out of the room. You think she'll leave quietly? I asked Kenneth. Not a chance, he said, giving my shoulder a squeeze. But don't worry. We're ready for whatever she tries. Looking at all the evidence spread across the table, I realized this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. The real fight was still ahead. Later, the family gathered in the large parlor for the will reading. The air was so tense, you could feel it. I sat between Kenneth and Nicole, watching Emma sit across the room with Jonathan standing close by. She had changed into a plain black dress, playing the role of the grieving widow perfectly. Before we begin, the senior lawyer from Dad's firm said, I should mention that Andrew made a few unusual requests for this will reading. Emma's fake smile slipped slightly. Unusual how? He asked for a video to be played first. The lawyer nodded to his assistant, who set up a laptop and projector. My father's face appeared on the wall, healthy and full of life like he had been 7 months ago. The room went silent. If you're watching this, Dad began, I'm no longer here to defend my choices, but I can explain them. He shifted in his seat. Emma, you're probably wondering why I let you believe you would inherit everything. The truth is, I needed to see how far you would go. Emma's face turned pale as Dad continued. The hidden cameras, the secret recordings, the fake documents, I know about all of it. Every plan, every lie, every time you try to steal what belongs to my daughter.
People gasped.
Someone whispered, Oh my God, Patricia. Dad's voice softened. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner, sweetheart. But I needed proof. Proof that's now in the hands of my lawyers, the police, and the FBI. Emma jumped to her feet. This is crazy.
He was sick.
He didn't know what he was saying. Sit down, Kenneth said firmly. You'll want to hear the rest. On screen, Dad held up a USB drive, the same one I had found. Everything is here, he said. The offshore accounts, the money stolen from my company, and the fake legal documents created with Jonathan Crombie. Jonathan stumbled back, his face pale. I never. Save it, Nicole said sharply. We have the recordings, Dad continued in the video. And the estate, including the mansion, was never mine to give away. It belongs to Patricia through her mother's trust. Emma, you found out about that and tried to secretly sell it before this day. The video paused, and the lawyer stood up.
There's more, he said.
But first, I must tell everyone that the FBI is now carrying out search warrants at several places, including Mr. Crombie's office and Mrs. Frank's private home. You can't do this to me, Emma shouted, completely losing control. I built this family. I kept things going while he was dying. You mean while you were stealing from him? I said, standing tall. While you were faking his signature and planning to sell my house? You ungrateful little. Emma started to scream and lunged at me, but Kenneth quickly grabbed her arm. Don't make this worse for yourself, he warned calmly. The lawyer cleared his throat. Shall we continue with the video? Dad's face came back on the screen. His eyes were serious and full of sadness. Emma, I once loved you. I believed in you. But you chose money over family, power over loyalty. The evidence has already been sent to the right people. By the time you see this, your bank accounts will be frozen. No, Emma whispered, falling into a chair. No. As for you, Jonathan, Dad said, his eyes now focused on the nervous lawyer, I trusted you to handle my family's legal matters. You broke that trust. The Bar Association already has a full report of what you've done. Jonathan ran out of the room, nearly knocking over the assistant on his way. The rest of the will is simple, Dad said. Patricia gets everything, just like her mother wanted. The trust in her name stays in place. And Emma, he paused. You have 26 hours to leave this house, or charges will be filed. The video ended. For a few seconds, no one spoke. Then Emma let out a loud, shaky laugh. You think this is over? She said, turning to me. Her mascara was smudged, and her eyes wild. You don't know how to run this estate. You have no idea how to manage this kind of money. You'll fail, just like your mother would have. Don't you dare talk about my mother, I said, stepping closer. My voice was calm but strong. You're not even close to the kind of woman she was. She built this family's legacy. You tried to steal it. Security will now escort Mrs. Frank to collect her personal belongings, the lawyer said. FBI agents outside will also want to speak with her. 3 men in suits appeared at the door. Emma broke down completely. This isn't fair. You deserve prison, Kenneth interrupted. And you should feel lucky if all you lose is your money and your reputation. I stood still as they took her away. Her cries and angry words echoed down the hall until they were gone. Nicole gently squeezed my hand. You okay? No, I said quietly. I'm not okay, I admitted, looking around the room where my family's secrets had just exploded. But I will be. Dad made sure of that. The lawyer walked over with a stack of papers. Miss Patricia, there are some documents to sign, he said softly. Then he lowered his voice. And one more video. Private. Just for you. I nodded, feeling the weight of everything Dad had left behind, his protection, his love. The fight wasn't over, but now I knew exactly what I was fighting for. 5 days after the will reading, the doorbell rang at midnight. I was curled up in Dad's study, going through financial records when Scott appeared at the door. Miss Patricia, you have a visitor, he said carefully. I looked up. Who is it? It's your sister, Jacqueline. My half-sister. She had stopped talking to us years ago after a huge fight with Dad. I hadn't seen her since. Send her in, I said, fixing my clothes. And Scott, stay nearby. Jacqueline walked into the room like a storm. She wore expensive clothes and had the same cold look as Emma, her mother, but with Dad's eyes. Well, she said, dropping into a leather chair. Nice job with Mom the other day. That was quite a performance. Bravo. What do you want, Jacqueline? I asked, staying behind Dad's desk like it was a shield. Can't a girl visit her sister? She replied, studying her perfect nails. Especially when that sister just got their stepmom arrested for fraud? Half-sister, I corrected. And Emma wasn't arrested. She's being investigated. Same thing, Jacqueline said with a shrug. Then she leaned forward. Look, I know we're not close, but I have something you need to know. About what? About Mom's next move.
She's not finished.
She's already meeting with new lawyers in the city, planning something big. I quietly turned on the voice recorder on my phone. And how do you know this? I asked. She called me, Jacqueline said, a small smile on her lips. She wants me to help her prove Dad wasn't in his right mind when he made those videos. Offered me a share of the estate if I testified. And I told her to go to hell, she said flatly. The smile disappeared from her face. Look, I left this family, but not because of Dad. I left because of her. I saw what she was doing to him, to all of us. The door opened again and Kenneth walked in. I thought I heard your voice, Jacqueline, he said. Kenneth. She stood to hug him, still pretending to be sweet. Still playing big brother to everyone? She teased. Someone has to, he said, sitting on the edge of the desk. So, why are you really here? To warn you, she said, pulling out her phone. Look at these. She showed us a list of text messages. She's not just planning legal action, Jacqueline said. She's desperate. And dangerous. She's contacting everyone she can. She's reaching out to anyone who might know something bad about the family, Jacqueline said. She's trying to build a case to fight the will. She can't fight for something that was never hers, I replied. No, Jacqueline agreed, but she can still drag the family name through the dirt trying. She let out a tired sigh. Look, I know you don't have any reason to trust me, but I want to help. Why? I asked, walking around the desk. You haven't spoken to us in 2 years. Because I was wrong, okay? Her voice shook a little. I was young, angry, and foolish. But after watching Mom tear this family apart, I can't stay quiet anymore. I glanced at Kenneth. He gave me a small nod. What exactly do you know? I asked. Everything, Jacqueline said, pulling out a USB drive, one that looked just like the one Dad had left. Mom kept records of all her tricks. She called it insurance. I found this while cleaning out her condo last year. Then why didn't you come forward sooner? Because Dad was still alive and I couldn't face him. She gently placed the drive on the desk. But now he's gone. And you're the one in charge. You need to see what she's capable of. I picked up the drive and turned it over in my hands. This could be a trap. It's not, she said firmly, meeting my eyes. Check the dates, the details. Everything is real. And there's more about Jonathan, the offshore accounts, and her other victims. Other victims? Kenneth asked, sitting up straighter.
Yes.
Mom's done this before. She's been married twice before Dad. She ruined both families. She's not just greedy, she's a con artist. My hand shook a little as I plugged the drive into Dad's computer. Files began to appear on the screen, photos, documents, and bank records going back 16 years. Wow, Kenneth muttered, scrolling through the files. She's been doing this for a long time. And now she's desperate, Jacqueline added. She's lost her money, her power, her reputation. People like her don't just walk away quietly. What do you think we should do? I asked. Let me help, she said. I know how she thinks. I know how she works. She paused. And maybe it's time to fix what's broken in this family. The room went quiet except for the soft sound of the computer. I stared at Jacqueline, trying to see if she was telling the truth. Okay, I finally said. But if this turns out to be some kind of trick? It's not, she cut in. I've spent 2 years regretting that I left this family. I won't make the same mistake again. Kenneth cleared his throat. We should give this to the FBI tomorrow. Tonight, I said, I want to hear everything Jacqueline knows, starting with what Emma is planning next. As she began to speak, I had a strange feeling in my chest. Like this was just the quiet moment before a much bigger storm. But at least now, I wasn't facing it alone. Just then, Scott entered, his usual calm look replaced by concern.
She's here, he said.
Mrs. Frank is at the front gate. She's demanding to be let in. I looked at the security camera feed on my laptop. Emma stood outside in a sharp suit, looking like she was ready for a courtroom. 3 men stood beside her, clearly lawyers from their polished shoes to their expensive briefcases. Let her in, I said, adjusting my dad's ring on my finger. It's time to finish this. Jacqueline touched my arm. Are you sure? I'm sure, I said, glancing around the study. Kenneth, Nicole, Jacqueline, and our family lawyer were all there. Everyone knows what to do. They nodded just as the sound of Emma's high heels echoed down the hallway. Then the door flew open, and there she was, looking flawless, but with a wild edge in her eyes. Well, isn't this a warm little gathering? She said, her eyes sweeping the room and landing on Jacqueline. My own daughter joining the enemy. How dramatic. Save it, Mom, Jacqueline said firmly. We know everything. Do you? Emma's laugh was sharp and cold. You think that little USB drive tells the whole story? You have no clue what really happened in this family. I stepped in front of Dad's desk. Then tell us. Go ahead. Your father was weak, she snapped. He would have ruined everything without me. The investments I made saved the family fortune. You mean the illegal transfers to offshore accounts? Kenneth said, holding up a folder. The ones you made while he was heavily medicated? Everything I did was legal. One of her lawyers cut in. Mrs. Frank had power of attorney. A fake power of attorney, our family lawyer said, sliding a paper across the desk. And here's the doctor's report. Andrew was fully able to make decisions and canceled that power of attorney 2 months before he died. Emma's calm look slipped for the first time. This is nonsense. I demand. You demand nothing, I said, pulling out an envelope. This is an official eviction notice. You have 1 hour to leave this house, or the police will remove you. You're ungrateful brat, she screamed and stepped toward me, but Kenneth quickly blocked her path. I gave you everything, she yelled. I raised you after your precious mother died. You mean after you convinced Dad to send me away to boarding school? I asked, my voice steady. After you slowly pushed away everyone who might have exposed your lies? You have no proof, she said quickly. Actually, Jacqueline said, opening her laptop, we do. She played a video of Emma meeting with Jonathan in a hotel room, clearly plotting something. Emma's face turned pale. Where did you get that? From your own files, Mom, Jacqueline said calmly. You should really update your passwords. The three lawyers exchanged looks. One of them started slowly stepping back toward the door. Mrs. Frank, he said nervously, you didn't mention any of this when you hired us. Because it's all lies. Emma screamed, spinning toward him. All of it made up by an ungrateful child who owns this house. I finished for her. I'll take it from here, I said. We have proof of your lies, your scams, your fake documents, and your past victims. Yes, we know about the other families too. One of her lawyers cleared his throat nervously. I think we should speak further after checking with our ethics team. Cowards, Emma shouted as both lawyers rushed out of the room. You can't do this to me. I made this family. No, I said, stepping closer. You almost destroyed it. But Dad saw through you. He protected me, and everything else, while you were digging your own grave. I'll fight this, she said, her voice low and angry. I'll tell everyone what really happens in this family, every secret, every scandal. Go ahead, Nicole said from a corner. The press would love to hear how you've married rich men and drained their bank accounts. I'm sure your past victims would love to speak up, too. Emma looked around the room, hoping for someone to defend her. No one did. Jacqueline, she said, her voice suddenly soft. Sweetheart, you don't believe all these lies about your own mother, do you? Don't, Jacqueline replied firmly, standing tall. I spent years feeling guilty for walking away. Now I'm just ashamed I didn't speak out sooner. Security is ready, Scott said from the doorway. Shall I walk Mrs. Frank out? This isn't over, Emma growled as she stepped back toward the door. You think you've won? You have no idea what's coming. Actually, I said, lifting my phone, the FBI does. They're very interested in the offshore accounts, the fake documents, and the stolen money. Her face twisted for just a second, like she might break. But then her usual cold look returned. You'll all regret this, she snapped. Goodbye, Emma, I said, watching as the security team came to take her away. Don't contact us again. Your lawyers can talk to ours. Her voice echoed down the hall before fading away. Jacqueline let out a shaky breath. This isn't the end, she said. No, I agreed, watching her on the security feed. But it's the beginning of the end. Kenneth gently squeezed my shoulder. Whatever she does next, we'll be ready. I looked around at the people standing with me, my half-sister, my cousin, my best friend. For the first time, I truly understood what Dad had left me. Not just money or a house. He left me a real family, one stronger than ever. At 2 a.m., my phone rang, waking me with a jolt. Jacqueline's voice came through, tight and serious. She's making her move, she said. Mom filed an emergency request saying Dad was mentally unfit when he made those videos. The court hearing is in 3 hours. I sat up straight. 3 hours? That's impossible. The courts don't. She found a way, Jacqueline interrupted. Judge Robert. She and Mom go way back. I'm on my way. Then Kenneth joined the call. Already called our lawyers. Meet at the courthouse in an hour. I threw on some clothes while calling Nicole. Within 55 minutes, our whole team was standing outside the courthouse. The sun was just rising, casting long shadows across the empty plaza. Here they come, Nicole muttered. Emma walked toward us, dressed in a plain black dress and surrounded by a new set of lawyers. My stomach turned when I saw one of them, Jonathan Crombie. She had switched her usual fancy clothes for something more serious, playing the role of the grieving widow once again. Last chance, Emma called out. Drop this silly fight, and we can work something out, like the way you work things out with your other husbands? Jacqueline stepped forward. How many families have you ruined, Mom? I'm trying to protect this family's future, Emma snapped. Your father was sick. He made bad decisions. Is that what you told Judge Robert? I asked. The same judge who went on vacation with you in the Hawaii last year? Emma's step faltered. How did you? We found the photos, Kenneth said, holding up his phone. And the offshore transfers. Funny how they happened right before that judge helped with your second divorce. Just then, the courthouse doors opened, and a clerk stepped out. The judge will see you now. Inside the courtroom, the air was thick with tension as we all took our places. Judge Robert, a serious-looking man in his 60s, looked down at us from the bench. Mrs. Frank, he began. You claim Andrew was not in his right mind when he made the videos and changed his will? Yes, Your Honor, Emma said, wiping fake tears with a tissue. The medication made him paranoid. He started accusing people and making strange decisions. I gave a small nod to our lawyer, who began showing images on a large screen in the courtroom, pictures of Emma with Judge Robert and bank records showing shady transfers. The judge's face darkened. What is this supposed to mean? It means, our lawyer said firmly, we have proof of misconduct, and we've already sent it to the State Ethics Board. This is outrageous, Emma's lawyer shouted, jumping to his feet. These are not just accusations, Jacqueline said as she stepped forward, holding a thick folder. We have proof of private meetings between my mother and Judge Robert to set up this emergency hearing. The judge gripped his gavel tightly. I will not be blackmailed. No one's blackmailing you, I said calmly. We're just telling the truth about Emma's scams, your part in helping her, and everything else. I move to dismiss. Emma's lawyer began. Sit down, Jonathan suddenly said. Everyone turned to look at him. It's over, Emma, he said. I'm not going to lie for you. Jonathan, Emma shouted. After everything we did was illegal, he said, sounding tired. And I've already given my statement to the FBI. The courtroom erupted. Emma lost control and lunged at Jonathan, screaming and throwing accusations. Her calm, fake image was completely gone. Order, Judge Robert yelled, slamming his gavel, but no one was listening. 3 men in suits walked into the courtroom, badges showing. Judge Robert, one of them said clearly. We need you to come with us, one agent said. And Mrs. Frank, you're under arrest for fraud, conspiracy, and trying to influence a judge. As they put handcuffs on Emma and led her away, she turned and gave me a hateful look. You think this is a win? You've ruined everything. No, I replied calmly. You did that to yourself. Every lie, every scam, every betrayal, those were your choices. Mrs. Frank, the FBI agent interrupted. You have the right to remain silent. I'll never be silent, she screamed as they pulled her from the courtroom. This family will regret this. All of you. Once the courtroom fell quiet, Jacqueline touched my arm. Are you okay? I looked out the window and watched as they put Emma into a waiting car. Judge Robert followed, also in custody. I think I finally am, I said. It's really over, Nicole whispered. Almost, Kenneth said. We still have to deal with everything she left behind, the legal mess, the media, the financial problems. We'll handle it, I said, feeling stronger than I had in weeks.
Together.
As we walked out of the courthouse, reporters rushed toward us, shouting questions. But for the first time since Dad's death, I didn't feel afraid or unsure, just clear and steady. Miss Patricia, one reporter called. Do you have a comment about your stepmother's arrest? I paused on the courthouse steps, surrounded by the people who stood by me. Just this, I said. The truth always comes out, no matter how long it takes, no matter who tries to hide it. Justice always finds a way. The autumn breeze moved gently through the garden as I unlocked the mansion door and let Jacqueline in with her boxes. After Emma's trial, she had been sentenced to 16 years in prison for fraud and conspiracy. My half-sister finally agreed to move back home. It still feels weird being here, she said, placing a box down in the hallway. Good weird, but still weird. Miss Patricia, Scott called, arriving right on time. The investigators finished going through the safe room. They found something you should see. We followed him to Dad's study, where Kenneth and Nicole were already waiting. On the desk sat a leather-bound book I had never seen before. It was hidden behind a false panel, Kenneth said. It's your mother's diary. My hands trembled as I picked it up and opened it. The pages were full of Mom's neat handwriting. One page stood out, a letter dated shortly before her death. Read it out loud, Nicole said gently. I took a deep breath and began. My dearest Patricia, if you're reading this, you've finally uncovered the truth about our home, your inheritance, and most importantly, your own strength. I created the trust not only to protect our family's future, but to protect you from those who might try to take it. Your father knows my wishes. The mansion isn't just a house. It's a symbol of love, family, and strength. I built it from nothing. Just like you'll need to rebuild after I'm gone. Trust your instincts.
Trust your real family.
And most of all, trust yourself. All my love, Mom. She knew, Jacqueline whispered. Somehow, she knew someone like Emma would come into our lives. A soft knock on the study door made us all turn. Jonathan stood there, looking uncomfortable in jeans and a sweater instead of his usual suit. The FBI finished questioning me, he said. I told them everything about Emma's past scams, Judge Robert's role, all of it. Why did you help her in the first place? I asked. He sighed and leaned against the doorway. Because I was foolish, greedy, and because she made me believe you couldn't handle the estate. I thought you weren't strong enough. He looked me in the eyes. I was wrong. About everything. Yes, you were, I said, standing tall. The Bar Association? I asked. They're disbarring me as expected. I'm also testifying against the others next week. Good, I said. Then I nodded to Scott. Please show him out. As Jonathan left, Kenneth picked up Mom's diary again. Your mother was amazing, he said. This journal has everything. Business advice, family memories, even warnings about people like Emma. She built an empire, Nicole added. And everyone underestimated her. Just like they underestimated you. The doorbell rang, and a moment later, Scott came back in with a delivery. The new security system is here, Miss Patricia. And the contractor is waiting to talk about the renovations. Go, Jacqueline smiled. You're the lady of the house now. We'll start unpacking my things. In the front hall, I paused in front of our old family portrait, Dad, Mom, and me as a little girl. The space where Emma's photo once hung was now empty, ready for a new picture. A new beginning. Miss Patricia? The contractor asked kindly. Are we moving forward with the updates you requested? Yes, I said, turning to him. We're restoring everything back to the way my mother designed it, but with a few modern touches. He checked his notes. And the East Wing? You mentioned converting it to a women's shelter. I confirmed. My mom built this home to protect her family. Now it'll protect others too. That evening, we all gathered in the garden, Jacqueline, Kenneth, Nicole, even Scott. We held glasses of champagne. To new beginnings, Kenneth toasted. And to old wisdom, I added, thinking of Mom's words in her journal. To real family, Jacqueline said, raising her glass. The setting sun made the mansion's windows glow golden, just like they did when Mom first imagined it all. I could almost hear her voice in the evening breeze, proud of how far we'd come. You know, Nicole said, your story is trending online. Daughter outsmarts gold-digging stepmom. People are calling you an inspiration. They're calling her a badass, Jacqueline said with a laugh. I just did what Mom would have done, I said. I protected what matters. I protected our family. Speaking of protection, Kenneth said, pulling out his phone and showing us a news update. Emma's past victims are starting to come forward. Looks like she'll be facing even more charges. Good, I said, walking to the edge of the garden where Mom's favorite roses still bloomed. Let her finally face everything she's done. We're done living in her shadow. To karma, Jacqueline said, lifting her glass. To justice, Kenneth added. To family, I said, feeling the weight of Mom's ring on my finger and Dad's watch on my wrist, the only things that really mattered. As night fell over the mansion, our home, I finally felt calm. Not because we had won or gotten revenge, but because I now understood what Mom had always known. Real strength comes from protecting the people you love. And real family stands together, no matter what storms come.